I didn't read the most books in 2025, but I can honestly say I think better because of the ones I did read. This year forced me to start over in ways I didn't expect. So in this video, I'm sharing the 5 books that genuinely improved my thinking in 2025. I'll share what they taught me and how I actually applied them, not in theory, but in real life. But first, have you ever started something and thought, maybe I'm just not built for this? Well, this first book might completely change how you see yourself. Before this channel existed, I already had a YouTube channel with around 80,000 subscribers. From the outside, that sounds great, but I was burnt out. I wasn't excited about the content anymore, and making videos, it felt like a chore. But every time I tried to pivot the channel in a new direction towards the things I actually cared about, the views dropped even more. I spent 8 months trying to change it, but it didn't work. And at that point, I was stuck. Do I go back to making content I'm not proud of, or do I walk away from a channel I spent years building? The scariest part wasn't starting over. The scariest part was thinking, what if I can't grow another channel? It had been 6 years since I started a channel from zero, and growing a channel with 80,000 subscribers is really different from growing one with 0. If I failed this time, maybe it meant I just got lucky the first time. Reading Mindset by Carol Dweck made me realize something uncomfortable but freeing. I wasn't afraid of failing. I was afraid of what failing would say about me. The core idea of the book is simple. You either see your abilities as fixed, or you see them as skills you can develop. A fixed mindset says, if this doesn't work, it means I'm not good enough. A growth mindset says, if this doesn't work, it means I haven't learned enough yet. What mindset gave me wasn't confidence, it gave me clarity. It helped me see that starting a new channel wasn't a reflection of my talent. It was just a practice environment. Low views weren't a verdict, they were just part of the process. And whether the channel worked or not wouldn't define who I was. It would simply show me what I needed to learn next. That realization removed the pressure. So I stopped asking, what if this fails, and started asking, what skills do I need to make this work? I decided to start this channel anyways, not because I was confident, but because I was willing to learn in public. Once YouTube stopped being a test of my worth, it became a skill game again. But once I committed to this channel, I ran into a new problem. I had the motivation, but not the structure I needed to actually make progress. That's where the second book changed everything. At the start of the year, I set a reading goal. But like most years, I had good intentions, but weeks would go by, sometimes months, and I'd still be halfway through one book. This popped up in other areas of my life as well. I wasn't lazy and I wasn't overwhelmed. Everything just felt important, which meant nothing felt urgent at all. The 12-week year made me realize the problem wasn't discipline, it was time, or more specifically, too much of it. The idea in the book is stop planning your life in years and start planning it in 12-week cycles. When you treat 12 weeks like a year, weeks become months and every day matters. But here's the key. Set goals that are within your control, not outcome-based goals you can't directly influence. When deadlines are far away, your brain relaxes. Parkinson's law says work expands to fill the time you give it. So annual goals tend to invite procrastination for me. Shorter timelines combined with controllable goals naturally create focus and accountability. It's not about hitting 100 subscribers. It's about doing the actions that reliably lead to progress. So I applied the system to this channel. Instead of setting an outcome goal of 100 subscribers, I set an action-based goal I could control. Post 2 videos a week for 12 weeks. I mapped out my plan, then organized my time using the 12-week years framework. So each week you have a strategic block, which is the 3-hour block for deep work. Then you have buffer blocks. And so what I did was 30 minutes a day for unexpected tasks like edits or emails, and then breakout blocks, which is a 3-hour block each week to unplug and do no work. Every day I knew exactly what mattered. No overthinking, no waiting for perfect, just execution. By following this system, I was able to reach my first big milestone on this channel faster than I ever expected. But even with better focus, there was another problem. I was reading more, but I wasn't retaining what I read. That's when this next book completely changed how I learned. Before this book, my learning process was broken. I listened to audiobooks and replayed chapters over and over until I finally understood everything. Other times I'd take massive notes, which were like pages and pages of notes, and I never actually went back and looked at them. Books took me weeks to finish, but even then, most of what I read faded. Make It Stick reminded me that easy learning doesn't last. Real learning requires effort, not passive listening, not highlighting everything. But what actually works is active retrieval of the information from the book or past experience, testing yourself on the information, spacing out when you test yourself or when you study, and applying what you learn as soon as possible. The brain strengthens knowledge when it struggles. That's why in the military, we didn't just teach information, we tested it and applied it. Difficulty is what creates durable memory. So now I test myself instead of rereading multiple times. I summarize ideas in my own words, and I do my best to try and apply the things I learn as soon as possible. I also space out my study sessions instead of cramming. Now when I finish a book, I trust that the ideas will stick around. But more importantly, I now feel confident teaching myself anything. But knowledge doesn't help much if you fall apart when life gets hard. This next book helped me stay grounded when things genuinely went wrong. This year's been hard. Right around the holidays, the transmission in my truck went out. I'm driving my daughter, headed to see Halloween lights with my family, and everything started going wrong. First, the transmission started to slip, and then I had to turn around and drive like 40 miles an hour the whole way home. And the next day, I'm taking my truck to the shop, and it just completely dies on the side of the road. With the tow truck, repair bills, and all this uncertainty, the old me would have exploded. I would have felt cursed or like the world was just against me. Don't get me wrong, it was still stressful. Epictetus taught me that you don't control what happens, you control how you respond. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about choosing your character, especially under pressure. When you react emotionally, you multiply suffering. When you respond deliberately, you protect your values. In that moment, when everything was going wrong, I asked, how do I want my daughter to remember this? So I stayed calm, I explained what was happening in her language, and I didn't lose my cool. Now she asks me all the time to tell me the story of when our truck got sick. That moment became a memory, not a trauma. But here's one lesson I needed about perseverance, patience, and knowing when to keep going, even when you can't see the progress yet. This year, my life changed in ways I didn't expect. I took on responsibilities I never handled before. My daily routine looked completely different, and I was managing things I used to split with someone else. Now it was all on me. For a while, I told myself nothing would change. I'd keep the same pace, the same output, and the same momentum. But that wasn't realistic. Growth slowed on this channel, in my learning, and in my energy, and everything felt harder than it should have been. I kept thinking, I should be further along by now. But a buddy at work recommended I read The Dip, and it reminded me of when I was learning photography a few years ago. There was this frustrating stretch where nothing I shot looked good. I wasn't improving, and I couldn't see any real progress. But I kept shooting anyway. Not because I believed it would work, but because I wasn't ready to quit yet. Then something clicked. My eye got sharper, and my photos started looking a lot better. The skills I've been building in the background were finally starting to show up. This book explains that every worthwhile pursuit has a low point. The question isn't, is this hard? It's, is this actually worth enduring? So basically, quit the wrong things and stick with the right ones. Excellence lives on the other side of the dip. Most people quit not because they can't succeed, but because discomfort feels like failure. Dips are natural. I now look at them as a signal instead of looking at them as a sign to stop. I reframe slow growth as confirmation instead of rejection. I know I'm in the dip, in my skills, in this channel, in this chapter of my life, but this dip isn't the end. It's the price of entry, and that gives me hope. All 5 of these books show me that growth takes work, but it's never wasted. But if you've ever struggled to actually finish books, build a consistent reading habit, or turn learning into real growth, you're not alone. There's a simple system I use that finally made reading consistent and effortless, and I break it down in this video right here. So check out that video, keep learning, keep growing, keep going, and I'll see you in the next one.